And if you think about it, no one really cares anyway. Driven Mofos, welcome back to another episode of The Underestimated Entrepreneur. Oh, I just recorded this after a nice big feed, a big egg and bacon sandwich. Oh, I feel like $1 million now. Still hitting the macros, still dropping some weight. I'm going to go and train after this, but I thought I'd just pop in and hit up this podcast. So anyway, let's get started with it. I want to talk about these ideas that people have and these ideas that people share. Especially in this day and age, most people are sharing what they're going to do. You know, when I speak to a lot of people, they say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be this, I'm going to achieve all this stuff. Now that's cool. It's good if you're clear and you're a driven person and you know how to execute and implement effectively. If you're getting the right advice and you've got the right information, it's going to help you to achieve greater things. But I think way too many people out there use this fantasy about what they're going to do or what they're going to achieve to get away with the fact that they're not doing what they need to do in order to get the results that they want to get. I can say I'm going to have a six-pack, but unless I'm prepared to diet, put in the work, understand my nutrition, understand my supplementation, potentially understand my hormones, then the chances of me having that six-pack is pretty low. If though I hire the right coaches, I'm around the right people, I create the right accountabilities, I know the right actions to take on a daily basis that are creating good habits, now we're in gear. The same when it comes to finances. I speak to people all the time. They say, I want to be a millionaire. And I go, yeah, cool. So I want to have Playboy bunnies massaging my shoulders all day while I am working. Doesn't mean that it's going to happen. First of all, I think Jess would nunchuck the shit out of them and probably kill them. But apart from that, it's one thing to say that that's what you want to do. But is that convincing you or creating a delusion in your own mind that you're actually doing something, that you're actually working effectively towards a goal? For most people, the answer is no, it is not working. Just because you want something doesn't mean you're going to achieve it. In fact, the chances of you wanting something and you actually achieving it is very slim. That's why you've got to have mentors. That's why you've got to have coaches. That's why you've got to surround yourself with gurus. Something that Tai Lopez talks about quite a lot is the impact of gurus. It's only been the last 100, 150 years that we've had a school system. And now these days, school systems are overvalued. If you think about this, I mean, it's such a great way of thinking about your own growth and your own development. Prior to the school system, you would go and learn off of an expert. So if you wanted to be, let's say, a mason, you would go and learn off of a mason. You would grow up and say, I want to be like that person, therefore I am going to go and learn off of them. Now, for those of you who don't know what a mason is, they essentially carve out stone. So when you grow up and you want to be like them, you go and you learn the tools, the skills, how to do it, and you're learning something off of someone who has achieved something in their life of greatness, and you learn from those people, and normally you develop those skills. This is where the phrase, standing on the shoulders of giants, came from. You're going now and you're learning the skills off of someone who's had 30 to 40 years of experience. Then you are going to take those skills. You might learn those same skills in 10 years that it's taken that person 30 years. Now you have the next 20 years refining your craft and your art so that you can share it with somebody else. That's how we get improvement over time. That's how things got better over generations. Now what happens is there is this school system. And in that school system, you have a teacher teaching finance that's never worked in finance, that's never done anything to do with finance, probably doesn't even have money in their fucking bank account, yet they're teaching the kids finance. You have someone who may be overweight teaching your kids about sports and athleticism. You have someone who is mentally unhealthy teaching kids about mental health. And these days we have a whole bunch of practitioners and therapists and people like that who work in industries who have gone to university, have been given something that's called a qualification, which is a piece of paper that says that they understand the theory of this art, and then they go out and they teach everybody else about that thing. I think that isn't a real qualification. I think the real qualification comes in the results that you achieve. My dad is not a mechanic, but he builds custom cars for a hobby. He has won car shows. He has traveled around the country being featured in magazines and all those sort of things. He essentially is a craftsman of that craft. Now, he's not a qualified mechanic, but he learned as much as he could about cars. He goes and works with other experts in those fields and he learns things. So he can do panel beating. He goes out and he learns from the panel beaters how to panel beat the car. Now, if he's going to build a full wild out custom car, he goes and finds the best person, but he will let the best person work on his car and he will learn from that person. Now, he's probably better than 90% of panel beaters, The same thing with mechanics. There are probably experts out there who are expert mechanics who are at the top of their field. They're the top 10%. My dad will employ them to build maybe one of his engines, but he will be there with them side by side learning off of them. And now he's better than probably 90 to 95% of mechanics. So he's developing this craft, this art. That has been taken away from the last 5 or 6 generations of people, where now we call a qualification someone who has theory. That's it. Okay, you can go and do a business degree, never having run a business, knowing nothing about business, apart from the theory. Now that's okay, but that person has a very low likelihood of actually achieving anything great in business, because business is predominantly a mental and emotional game. It's a strategic game. And so if you can't control your mindset and you can't control your emotions, then you're probably not going to win in business. Most people I know who crush in business weren't good at school. They just work their ass off, they grind, they have a lot of courage, they have a lot of determination, they don't give a shit what other people think, and they just get out there and they put in the work. And over time, they learn from other mentors and other experts and other people around them, and they develop that craft and they become extremely good at business. Most people that I know who have done a marketing degree are shit at marketing. Why? Because they've never really had to put their ass on the line to create great results. They get given a huge budget and they can fuck it up and it doesn't really matter because they'll, redo the next campaign a little bit better. As a small business owner, you get $1 and you've now got to make $4. And from that $4, you now reinvest $4 into marketing and then you've got to make $12. That's how good marketers learn. So some of the e-commerce guys, some of the great coaches out there, some of the people who just jump in and learn Facebook ads, they are some of the best people because they have to develop that art. They have to develop the skill. When you've got a nice cushy job and you can sit in an office and you can run Facebook ads, you're using someone else's money, you've never had to put anything on the line. You just have to do your job. That takes away the majority of the entrepreneurship of that skill. But it also doesn't really make you effective at ad spend and how you spend money because it's somebody else's. So what I want to get back to is that no one really cares what you're going to do. Most of the time, it's just mental masturbation for people out there, the same as qualifications. I get it all the time where someone says, you're not qualified to do this. And I'm like, okay, why not? Well, you don't have a piece of paper. And I go, well, fucking what's a piece of paper going to do? Well, that means that you're qualified. And I'm like, okay, but what does that mean? Well, that means you have a competence. And I say, does it? Does it mean that you're competent? Just because you've gone and studied human behavior or mental health or psychology, does that mean that you understand how people operate? Most of the time, the answer is no. Having worked with tens of thousands of people and sometimes being given phone calls where someone's suicidal and you've got to walk them off of that shelf, that gives you a pretty good skill set. I can tell you right now, not that I want to do that, but I understand how people work. It's my love. It's what I do. And I go and learn off of other mentors and coaches and people maybe who have been through the university system, people who have a PhD. And you know, the cool thing is those people respect other experts. I have never had someone who is at a high level in their field criticize me not having a university degree. But I have met lots of shit kickers out there who have gone to university who feel entitled because they feel like they've done the right thing, yet they're not getting the results that they want. And so they criticize and judge somebody like me because they feel like I'm not entitled to do what I do. My point is, no one cares what you're going to do. They care about the result and the outcome that you get. That's what it really comes down to. So if you want to get better results in life, you really need to sit down and ask yourself these questions. First of all, what is it that I'm dedicating myself to achieving? Then what does it take to achieve those things? What does it take? What am I prepared to give up? What am I prepared to do? Some of the other questions you might need to ask yourself is, who do I need to become? Because the person with a jelly belly isn't the same person as a six-pack. They're two different people. That might be the same person, but with completely different traits, completely different beliefs, a completely different story about themselves and their life, completely different value of themselves. They're completely different people. So we need to ask ourselves, who do we need to become? If you want to become a billionaire, you need to become a different person than if you're trying to be a millionaire. If you want to be a millionaire, you need to become a different person than the person who's earning 80K a year. They're completely different people. So you have to think about who you need to become. Most people never do that. They go, I want to have a Ferrari. Cool, bro. Whatever. The question is, who do I have to become in order to deserve that? That means that you don't go out on Saturday night and hit the grog. That means that you don't spend Friday night on a bender buying bags with your mates and going out to the strippers and having an absolute bender of a night and not sleeping for 3 days. That's not what the Ferrari guy has. Now, yeah, there are some people out there with Ferraris who do that shit, Normally, though, they don't do it on the way up. They do it when they get to the top, but also the drugs are normally the things that throw them back down to the ground as well. So you got to be careful with that stuff. Look at the Wolf of Wall Street. Those stories are repeated over and over and over and over and over and over and over again in the entrepreneurial space. Someone works really, really hard to reach the top. They get to the top. They start partying. They start running amok. They start taking drugs. They start drinking more. They start going out more for lunch. They get fat. They get tired. They get burnt out. And then all of a sudden they become self-destructive. And the next second they're at rock bottom again. It happens. So the question is, who do you need to become? Some other questions that you really need to ask yourself is, who do I need to surround myself with? What mentors? What coaches? What types of people? What types of conversation do you need to have with your friends, with your family, with your intimate partner? The conversations I have with Jess now are completely different than when we first started dating. We talk about our goals. We talk about our outcomes. In fact, we go to bed at nighttime and we go through and break through our day. We go, here's what worked, here's what didn't work, here's where I can improve upon things. And we have those conversations. Back when we first started dating, we would talk about other people. We would talk about going out on the weekend. We would talk about having fun. But the conversation is completely different because we're completely different people. And I need to surround myself with people who think at a high level. And Jess is one of those people. Because as our business has grown, we've had to develop ourselves to think differently. Last night, I had two people here. Both of them have been at a high level in the chief roles. So one is the chief operating officer and the other one is the chief finance officer, the CFO. Both of those two people have worked for multi-billion dollar corporations. And so they've had to run those companies. The COO has had to put together all the strategy, all the process, all the teams, all the hiring, all the recruitment, everything like that. This guy's a fucking genius. And the other guy has had to run all of the finance, all of the numbers, the data, where they pull data from, how they make decisions in the company of, again, a multi-billion dollar company. And so they were both here last night for dinner. And then we went through our business strategy with them. They're my mentors. The reason why I hang around those people is because those people have skills that I don't have and I need to develop my craft. I need to develop my art. And I pay them extremely well to do so. Most of you aren't doing that. Most of you are hanging out with your bogan mates that are, doing drugs, doing alcohol, doing partying, talking about fucking bitches or talking about drama and shit from other people around them. Did you hear what she said? Did you hear what they did? That shit is not going to help you to achieve the things that you want, right? That's not going to help you to get to where you want to get to, especially if you're listening to this podcast. I know there's most of you out there that are driven. For a few of you out there, it's time to not give up those friends. I don't recommend to ever get rid of friends, right? Because they're people. They're real people. It's just that you have different trajectories. If you want to achieve at a high level, if you want to make your first $1 million in business, you can't be hanging out, 5 days a week with people that are making 80K a year. They just think differently. I very rarely hang out with people who work 9-to-5 jobs because we just think differently. They're not bad people. There's nothing wrong with them. But the thing is, we just think differently. I need to grow to my next level, and I hope they're hanging out with people that are helping them to grow to the next level. Now, I do have some people in my inner circle who are working jobs and they're looking at getting out of those jobs and moving and potentially starting their own business, or they want to work up to that executive level where they can get paid really, really well. They're putting in the time, they're putting in the energy, they're developing themselves and they're growing. They're the people that I like hanging out with, people on a journey of growth. So I don't want to just hang out with people who just do enough. I don't want to hang out with people who have Monday to Friday, 9-to-5, Friday finishes 5 o'clock. Oh, yay, I'm done for the weekend. Oh shit, it's Sunday night. I got to go back to my shit job tomorrow. I don't want those people around me, right? They're not growing, they're not growth driven, they're not achieving at a high level, nor do they want to. And that's fine. One day they might wake up and realize that that's what they want to do. I'm not going to tell them that they're shit people because they're not. They just have a standard that they want to live by. They have expectations. They have goals. Maybe they're people pleasers. Maybe they have things that they want to work through or need to work through. The question is, are they ready to work through those things to change? Back years ago, I would slow myself down to try to help pull other people up around me because I wanted them to achieve. But the thing was that they didn't want to achieve. So now I just hang out with people that want to achieve. And if someone doesn't want to achieve, that's cool. We can catch up every now and again, but I'm not hanging out with you a lot because that rubs off. If we want to achieve at a high level in life, we have to have mastery. We have to learn off of other people with different skill sets. Now, some people might have a 9-to-5 job, but be an amazing communicator, and you can learn communication skills off of them. My sister is one of the best parents I've ever come across. She's got a high value on being a mum. It's number one. She is an amazing communicator with the kids. She understands the kids really well. She's one of the most inspiring people I've met. So different people have different goals. You need to define though who you need to hang out with in order to get to where you're going to get to. So I should not have said about the 9 to 5 thing, because there are people who work 9 to 5, but working isn't their highest priority. They might have a high priority of family, but what you'll find is that those people are consistently growing in that area. I will not hang out with people who don't want to grow and who are stale and stagnant. So just remember, no one cares what you're going to do. They only care what you are doing or what you have done. So stop talking about, I'm going to do this, I'm going to achieve all this shit, because no one really cares. You're only doing that to validate yourself because you're trying to convince yourself that you're doing something. The thing that everybody cares about is what you're doing. When you say, I go to the gym every day, everyone fucking notices. They notice. Saying I'm going to go to the gym or I'm going to have a six pack, no one gives a fuck about, because they can't see it. When they see it, they will believe it. So show them, lead the journey. Stop talking about it, get to work, get stuff done. Make sure you surround yourself with the right people and make sure you're asking yourself the right questions to develop yourself enough. That's really what you want to do if you want to execute well and get the results that you want. Anyway, Driven Mofos, if you haven't shared this podcast yet, please jump on social media, take a screenshot and share this and tell other people to listen to this podcast. I really want to up this podcast and get more numbers out there because I want to be in the US later this year, right? That's my big goal, is to go to the US and start playing with the big boys and girls over there. And I need to get this out to more people. So if you could share this on your social media and tell people to listen to it, that would be absolutely amazing, because if we can get more numbers to this, it gives me a greater chance of getting into the US market. But also as well, it helps me to expand globally as well. We're starting to get more people listening in Europe, in South Africa, in some of the African countries as well. It's been absolutely amazing watching the numbers go up. But I know it's because of all of you. It's not because of me. It's because of all of you sharing this, telling your friends and family about it, and getting more people into this podcast. So once again, a massive thank you to all the Driven Mofos out there, all of you who are wanting to be better, wanting to grow, and wanting to achieve more. I really do appreciate each and every one of you, and especially because you're in this community of Driven Mofos as well. We got to stick together, we got to keep pushing, and we got to achieve. Anyway, have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of The Underestimated Entrepreneur. Most people waste their life, and I just don't want you to be one of them.